Welcome back to the PJ Pod. In this Spotlight episode, we'll take a look at the NHS's latest endeavour to keep patients safe while taking what are known as time-critical medicines.
I know my Parkinson's better than anyone else. I know my medication regime better than anyone else. I know when my body needs its next dose of medications because my body tells me. They don't have that alarm. I do.
Barry, who you just heard from in that Parkinson's UK video, is prescribed medicines for his Parkinson's disease that he needs to take at a certain time to make sure his symptoms are managed correctly. This is just one example of a time-critical medicine, or TCM for short. High levels of medication incidents related to TCMs have persisted for decades, but a new national focus on reducing the number of these events may finally deliver a solution. I'm Carolyn Wickware, Executive Editor at the Pharmaceutical Journal, and I'm joined by Senior Clinical Reporter David Lipanovic, who's been looking into this ongoing problem for a feature in our October issue. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Carolyn.
So is there any more you can tell us about what a time-critical medicine is?
Sure. Time-critical medicines, sometimes referred to as time-sensitive medicines, are medicines that need to be administered at a specific time, as the name suggests, where a delay in receiving the dose or missing the dose entirely can lead to serious patient harm. In most acute trusts, TCMs need to be administered within half an hour of the specific allocated time, and commonly used examples of TCMs include insulin injections for diabetes patients, and medicines for Parkinson's disease such as levodopa or carbidopa. But there are many other examples of TCMs such as resuscitation drugs, antidotes, antibiotics, anticoagulants, antiepileptics, and many others. It's a long list.
So TCMs are an umbrella term for quite an array of medicines covering lots of patients. What happens if these patients don't get their next dose on time?
Well, at a wider population level, not getting your time-critical medicines on time can lead to increased morbidity, mortality, and a longer hospital stay. For an individual patient, a missed or delayed dose of TCMs can be devastating, particularly in people with Parkinson's disease, where it can leave them unable to swallow, walk, talk, and in certain cases can be fatal. As Barry goes on to say in his interview with Parkinson's UK, because he didn't get his medicines on time, his Parkinson's symptoms started causing erratic movements in the operating suite, to the extent that the staff ended up having to physically restrain him. This meant that the operating suite and everyone inside was covered in his blood. Obviously, this made the surgery more difficult, but the psychological impact an event like this has on a patient is also significant.
How often does this kind of thing happen?
Well, the first bit of data that was published around omission of doses in the acute sector was highlighted in the National Patient Safety Alert back in 2010. Where the government reported 27 deaths, 68 incidents of severe harm, and over 21,000 additional related patient safety incidents between September 2006 and June 2009. More recent NHS England figures have shown that between April 2022 and March 23, there were 41,000 medication incidents, 18% of which were due to omitted medicines. And although 83% of these incidents resulted in no harm, 17 deaths were still recorded.
Okay, so in the 3 years between 2006 and 2009, there were 27 deaths. But then in the 1 year between 2022 and 2023, there were 17 deaths. That sounds like a growing problem.
And if we look more specifically into the data on TCMs, Parkinson's UK did some brilliant work on this, where they found that in 2022, 58% of people with Parkinson's did not receive their TCMs on time during their hospital stay, up from 50% in 2015. So all this data is showing us that omitted medicines, particularly TCMs, are a big issue. It's occurring frequently in acute sectors and has been an ongoing issue for nearly 2 decades.
Okay, so talk me through what's happening to make the administration of these medicines safer in hospitals.
Fortunately, there are interventions in place to improve administration of TCMs. One that was initially suggested in the 2010 National Patient Safety Alert was the use of a designated TCM list to help clinical ward staff identify patients on these meds and also for data collection. But while the recommendation was adopted by many trusts, its impact on improving patient safety has been quite limited, and its usefulness has been challenged by healthcare professionals.
Why is that?
One of the reasons is that you can argue that all medicines are time critical, depending on what they're used for and who they are treating. So for example, a steroid for treating adrenal crisis is time critical, but the same steroid for treating a chronic condition may not be as urgent. So making a designated list is quite difficult. Also, I chatted to Emma Kirk from the Specialist Pharmacy Service and Tony Jameson from NHS England for the feature, and they both discussed the potential downsides of having a designated list. For example, if it gets too long, it can be difficult to maintain and also difficult for healthcare professionals to remember what's on it. It also runs the risk of clinical staff thinking it's an exhaustive list. But on the other hand, a designated list can be really useful in certain clinical settings, such as in emergency departments where the type of service they provide is more regimented. In November 2023, the Royal College of Emergency Medicines published their guidance on TCMs. It includes a designated list of TCMs with a set of standards to follow, which has been well received.
The idea of a TCM list, then, isn't really a universal solution to this issue. Are there any other projects underway to tackle this?
Yes. One project that has been really successful locally was a Parkinson's disease project conducted by NHS Ayrshire and Arran. This project was led by Nick Bryden, a Parkinson's disease specialist nurse who used e-prescribing to identify Parkinson's patients and develop ward prompts for clinical staff when medicines were due. Locally, they call this the tulip system. So when a Parkinson's patient was in the ward, they'll have a digital tulip next to their name, and this would highlight in either grey if the medication is not due, green if the medication is due within 30 minutes, or red if the medication is overdue. Since the initiative launched in 2018, 87% of patients in targeted wards received their TCMs on time compared to 41% prior to its introduction.
Those sound like very promising results.
Yeah, NHS England also have updated me that approximately 90% of trusts in England should have the e-prescribing functionality to adopt this model, which is very exciting.
So why are these medication errors still happening then?
Well, implementing something that was successful locally and upscaling this nationally is a huge task. There are still many details to figure out and numerous other factors that can contribute to medication errors. For example, for many trusts, the rollout of e-prescribing systems is still in progress, and incorporating the tulip system will take additional resources and costs. There are also issues around the practicality of implementing different models in different clinical settings. For instance, at present, the majority of trusts have a self-administration of medicines policy to allow certain patients to administer their own medicines that they've brought in from home to reduce omission of medicines. But ward staff have expressed concerns around this model, as they would still have to manually update and sign off the e-prescribing system based on an assumption that the patient has taken the correct dose at the correct time, while avoiding duplicate dosing and any other administration errors that may or may not have happened. And while this isn't likely to be an issue in most cases, as these patients are perfectly capable of managing their own medicines at home, there are risks associated with these models. So there are still a lot of details to figure out.
That's a lot of different elements to work through to find a solution. How is the NHS approaching it now?
For the first time ever, omission of TCMs has finally gained national attention, with NHS England deciding to look into the issue as part of their Medicines Safety Improvements Programme from April this year. The programme will work with partner organisations such as the Specialist Pharmacy Service and Parkinson's UK, who have already done a lot of work on this, to gather as much information as they can on all the different types of interventions that are out there and figure out the best way to tackle the problem at a national scale. To get the ball rolling, the Specialist Pharmacy Service have launched an inquiry where they're looking to interview as many people as they can that have done work on TCMs. So if there are any local trusts or organisations out there listening, please get in touch with Jennifer Flatman from the Specialist Pharmacy Service, who is leading the project.
Is there more that pharmacists specifically can do?
Yes, there is. I spoke with James Davies, the Director for England at the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, about what pharmacists can do while this work is underway. He told me that pharmacy staff have a key role in improving accessibility of TCMs, whether this is self-administered or given by staff, by encouraging people to bring in their own medicines to hospitals, raising awareness of schemes already in place, such as the Green Bag Scheme, and providing education for other healthcare professionals on the importance of TCMs. So hopefully, that will go some way to avoiding these traumatic events like Barry had.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dave, for that insight into time-critical medicines. We'll wrap it up there. This Spotlight episode of the PJ Pod is part of our October issue. You can read Dave's full feature on this topic on our website or in our app.
Yep, and the link to my feature is in the show notes. Thank you so much for having me, Carolyn.
All right, thanks, Dave. The PJ Pod is brought to you by the Pharmaceutical Journal, the official journal of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. If you're interested in joining the Royal Pharmaceutical Society to access a range of member benefits, including the Pharmaceutical Journal's news, features, and learning resources, you can do so for the equivalent of just 60p a day. Just search RPS membership to find out more. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.